Welcome to our deep dive today, where we're going to extract, I think, most interesting parts of all this material that we have in front of us
Mhm.
about Sir William Elgar.
Yeah, right.
He's always considered, quintessentially English in terms of his music, but the information we have suggests that there's much more to it.
Yes, a more intricate picture than just sort of English pastoral,
Exactly.
which is often how we think of him.
And a picture that involves significant European influence and a really fascinating personal narrative.
Yes, indeed. We have here a review of information on Elgar, and I think what we want to do is move beyond, the kind of simple categorizations that we might think about when we think of him, and try to explore the nuances of both his life and his works to get a deeper appreciation, I think, for the individual behind these celebrated compositions.
So let's begin by looking at his early years. One of the things that strikes me as interesting is that his musical education was not really the traditional path. He spent a lot of time at Worcester Cathedral as a young boy, around 8 to 10 years old.
Hmm.
And he essentially taught himself music by studying scores that he would borrow.
Yes, it's quite extraordinary, really. I mean, when you think about the breadth of his exposure early on, you might think that he would just be surrounded by English choral music and that sort of thing, but
Yeah.
he was very engaged with the sort of leading European Romantic composers, and he identified Schumann as his ideal
Mm.
and was really immersed in the works of Brahms and Rubinstein and Wagner. He said he felt pretty well dosed with Brahms, Rubinstein, and Wagner at one
Sure.
point. So
Yes.
this early, self-directed exploration really challenges this notion that we have of him as an English composer right from the outset.
It does paint this picture of a young mind just soaking everything up. Um, and so do you think that, being self-taught might have given him a different perspective or approach than someone who went through a conservatory?
Well, it certainly is a possibility, isn't it? I mean, I think self-education can foster a unique sense of independence, perhaps a willingness to experiment beyond the norm, because he wasn't necessarily bound by the rules and expectations of a formal education that might have contributed to his distinct musical voice.
Makes sense. And it
Yeah.
appears that this less conventional education,
Yeah.
combined with his family's, kind of more humble social standing in Victorian England,
Mm.
might have made him feel like a bit of an outsider.
Well, the review does point out that his Roman Catholic faith was also a factor, which set him apart in a predominantly Anglican society. And this even caused some tension with his father. So this multifaceted sense of being an outsider, stemming from his education, his religious beliefs, and his social background, probably had a profound effect on his worldview and may well have been a significant undercurrent in his artistic expression.
It's really interesting to think how those early experiences
Hmm.
really shaped him as a person. Now, moving on, I think a really, really pivotal part of Elgar's story is his marriage to Caroline Alice Roberts. This
Absolutely.
partnership was exceptionally important to him.
And it was a partnership that presented a number of hurdles for them. Alice came from a higher social class, and so this would have presented challenges for them as a couple at the time.
And yet she was such a source of support and such a crucial figure in his professional life.
Yes, she became sort of a driving force almost in his career.
The information we have really emphasizes her significance. She wasn't just a supportive spouse. She was his business manager,
Mhm.
and she was a very trusted musical critic. And we even have this great quote from her where she says, "The care of a genius is enough of a life work for any woman."
What a statement. And it's true, she really did devote her life to him and his
Her,
music.
her commitment was pretty incredible.
He was.
Wait, the review mentions that she actually faced
Yeah.
disinheritance.
Yeah.
Because of her marriage to Elgar.
Well, that really highlights the depth of her belief in his talent and the personal sacrifices she made to champion his artistic ambitions.
A true testament to their bond.
It really is.
So it seems that throughout his life, Elgar really benefited from having certain people in his corner.
Yes.
We've talked about his wife, but the review also mentions early encouragement from his mother.
Yes.
That initial familial support can be so crucial for anyone on a creative path.
It often provides that foundation of confidence and the belief that they need to persevere.
Exactly.
And later on in his career, we see the emergence of other important figures, like his publisher, August Jaeger.
Ah, yes, Jaeger, who was famously remembered as the inspiration behind the Nimrod variation in the Enigma variations.
A great reminder that even seemingly abstract musical works can have deep personal connections.
Exactly. It brings to light all those human relationships woven into the fabric of his music. And speaking of the Enigma variations, those were actually very successful upon their initial release.
They were indeed a huge success.
And later on, of course, he has the Pomp and Circumstance marches, which are iconic. And actually, he's even quoted as saying about that, "I've got a tune that will knock him flat."
Yes, there's a sort of an unexpected self-assurance in that statement.
There is. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. He had some challenges in his career. The Dream of Gerontius, for example, initially caused some controversy because of his Roman Catholic texts.
Yes, that's a good example of how societal and religious sentiments can intersect with the reception of a work of art.
For sure. And some of his larger scale works, like his Second Symphony, didn't immediately receive that widespread acclaim.
Which just highlights the fact that public and critical opinion can be complex and can evolve over time.
It's also interesting to note that later in his life, a new generation of younger conductors really helped bring attention back to his music.
Yes, they helped to revive interest in his music, which speaks to the enduring quality of his compositions and the importance of passionate advocates who can champion a composer's vision.
Absolutely. It's essential for a lasting legacy. I think it's also fascinating how early Elgar embraced emerging technology. He was really forward-thinking.
He was.
He was not at all resistant to innovation.
The review describes him as the first composer to take the gramophone seriously. And that is a significant distinction.
It is.
Because he really understood the potential of recording technology to preserve his interpretations for the future.
And he didn't just make a couple of recordings. He made extensive recordings, particularly during the electrical recording era.
Yes, and these recordings are particularly valuable for understanding how he wanted his music to be performed, including his tendency towards those faster tempi.
So we have this auditory link to the composer's own practices.
We do, and that can sometimes differ
Yeah.
from subsequent interpretations, so they're really important records.
Absolutely. So as we move into Elgar's later years, we encounter this topic of his unfinished works, most notably his Third Symphony.
Yes, a lot of speculation about that symphony, and it seems as if he had a really deep personal connection to this project.
It suggests it had such an intimate significance for him.
It does. It makes you wonder what might have been.
And in a way, this kind of connects back to the Enigma variations, where the very title hints at something hidden.
Yeah.
And there's all this discussion about the identities of the people in the variations and the possibility of a broader underlying theme. That remains kind of elusive.
There is an enduring fascination with that work, and Elgar himself described the variations as representing the mood of the party, the person. And he said that he had written what I think they would have written if they were asses enough to compose.
Okay.
So there's that element of wit
Yeah.
and complexity in his description.
It does offer a glimpse into his creative process
It does.
and his sense of humor.
Yeah.
Which was sometimes a little sharp.
He certainly didn't suffer fools gladly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we're left with, I think, a more nuanced understanding of Elgar. We've gone all the way from his beginnings as a self-taught musician who felt like a bit of an outsider, to this celebrated composer whose work became very closely associated with Englishness, while also being hugely influenced by European musical traditions.
It's quite a journey, isn't it?
It is.
And we've seen the crucial role played by his wife, Alice,
Yes.
and his very early adoption of recording technology. So when we think about Elgar's life, it really makes you consider the connection between an artist's personal experiences and their creative output.
Absolutely.
And when you think about the fact that Elgar's work became so tied to a particular national identity, it's worth remembering the individual's own journey, the struggles, the range of inspirations that actually lie beneath the surface.
For sure.
So I think the question to ask ourselves is, how do an artist's personal narratives and influences shape their art, particularly when that art becomes a symbol of national identity? Does it challenge our understanding of musical identity?
That's a great question to consider. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into the life and work of Sir Edward William Elgar.